Going live. All right, we are live now on YouTube. Wonderful. Well, welcome everyone that has come for this special devotional. We are really excited about this. As you can see, I have a picture of the Martin Luther King statue. I think it was on tour. You can tell that's the UT Tower in the background, kind of blurry, but I'll try to get a relevant Austin picture for us today. So I put together a small program with some writings and some music, and then I thought afterwards we could have a little bit of a discussion. I have two kind of sources we can look at. One is an article talking about an important speech Martin Luther King did and looking at how it compares to a speech that Abdu'l-Baha had given many years prior. And another is a brief little video talking about Baha'is and our role in race unity. So with that, let's see. So I need 12 volunteers. Should we put them in chat in order? Let's see here. Let's go with, I'm going to start typing your names. I'm going to volunteer you unless you're not ready, but most of you. So we're going to go with Nabil, Hotan, Jan, Karen, at on Ewald. Guys at random. Gabriel, Ajit. Let's go with who else is here? Hotan.
Oh, I think you had me before.
Oh, I did have.
I was after Nabil. Stephen Fuqua
right. Oh, Stephen, yes.
Had his hand up.
Fantastic. Yes. Curtis. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I just need one more. Who is do Malahi? Okay. Sweet. I'm putting the order in the chat. All right, here we go. So let me switch this. And then, all right, dear friends. So let's start. You started. We're going to do.
Sorry, I'm walking actually.
Okay.
In the dark with my husband. Sorry.
Okay.
I can't read.
Okay. So.
But I don't want to miss it out, so I was just listening.
Fantastic.
If that's okay. Thank you.
We'll find a replacement. No problem. All right. So Nabil, would you like to start?
Yes, for sure. So this is a quote from Dr. King. This call for a worldwide fellowship that lifts neighborly concern beyond one's tribe, race, class, and nation is in reality a call for an all-embracing and unconditional love for all men. This oft misunderstood and misinterpreted concept, so readily dismissed by the Nietzsches of the world as a weak and cowardly force, has now become an absolute necessity for the survival of man.
Oh my God, unite the hearts of thy servants. And reveal to them thy great purpose. May they and abide in thy love. Help them, O God, in their endeavor, and grant them strength to serve thee. Oh God, leave them not to themselves. Oh no, but guide their steps by the light of thy knowledge, and cheer their hearts, and cheer their hearts. Make them happy, Lord, and cheer their hearts by thy love. Verily, thou art their helper, and their Lord.
Let us love one another. For love is God, and everyone that loveth is born of God, and knoweth God. He that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love. If we love one another, God dwelleth in us, and his love is perfected in us. 1 John 4:7.
It is no longer good enough to cry peace. We must act peace, live peace, and live in peace. Native American, Shenandoah.
O Son of Spirit, the best beloved of all things in my sight is justice. Turn not away therefrom, if thou desirest me, and neglect it not, that I may confide in thee. By its aid, thou shalt see with thine own eyes, and not through the eyes of others, and shalt know of thine own knowledge, and not through the knowledge of thy neighbor. Ponder this in thy heart, how it behooveth thee to be. Verily, justice is my gift to thee, and the sign of my loving kindness. Set it then before thine eyes. Baha'u'llah.
I think this one's mine. O ye that dwell on earth, the religion of God is for love and unity. Make it not the cause of enmity or dissension. in the eyes of men of insight and the beholders of the most sublime vision, whatsoever are the effective means for safeguarding and promoting the happiness and welfare of the children of men have already been revealed by the pen of glory. Tablets of Baha'u'llah.
Humanity is but a single brotherhood. So make peace with your brethren. Islam, the Quran, 49:10.
O Lord, raise me up, that I shall not fall back. O Lord, raise me up, that I shall not fall back. O Lord, raise me up, that I shall not fall back. Oh Lord, raise me up. Oh Lord, raise me up. I shall not fall back. That I shall not fall back. Oh Lord, raise me up. I shall not fall back. That I shall not fall back. Oh Lord, raise me up. I shall not fall back. That I shall not fall back. Oh Lord, raise me up. Oh Lord, raise me up. I shall not fall back. That I shall not fall back. Oh Lord, raise me up. I shall not fall back. That I shall not fall back. Oh Lord, raise me up. I shall not fall back. That I shall not fall back. Oh Lord, raise me up. Oh Lord, raise me up. I shall not fall back. That I shall not fall back. Oh Lord, raise me up. I shall not fall back. That I shall not fall back. Oh Lord, raise me up. I shall not fall back. That I shall not fall back. Oh Lord, raise me up. Oh Lord, raise me up. I shall not fall back. That I shall not fall back. that I shall not fall back. Oh Lord, raise me up, that I shall not fall back. Oh Lord, raise me up, that I shall not fall back. Oh Lord, raise me up. Oh Lord, raise me up. Oh Lord, raise me up.
The well-being of mankind, its peace and security, are unattainable unless and until its unity is firmly established. This unity can never be achieved so long as the counsels which the pen of the Most High hath revealed are suffered to pass unheeded. Through the power of the words he hath uttered, the whole of the human race can be illumined with the light of unity, and the remembrance of his name is able to set on fire the hearts of all men and burn away the veils that intervene between them and his glory. One righteous act is endowed with a potency that can so elevate the dust as to cause it to pass beyond the heaven of heavens. It can tear every bond asunder and hath the power to restore the force that hath spent itself and vanquished. Baha'u'llah.
Be pure, O people of God. Be pure. Be righteous. Be righteous. Say, O people of God, that which can ensure the victory of Him who is the eternal truth. His hosts and helper on earth have been set down in the sacred books of the scripture, sacred books and scriptures, and are as clear and manifest as the sun. These hosts are such righteous deeds, such conduct and character as are acceptable in his sight. Whoso ariseth in this day to aid our cause and summon to his assistance the host of praiseworthy character and upright conduct, the influence flowing from such an action will most certainly be diffused throughout the world.
Therefore, as God's chosen people, dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another. Forgive. These virtues put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. From Colossians chapter 3, verse 12 through 14.
We would hope that the people may be guided by the blessed words, say all things are of God. This exalted utterance is like unto water for quenching the fire of hate and enmity, which smoldereth within the hearts and breasts of men. By this single utterance, contending peoples and kindreds will attain the light of true unity.
In the estimation of God, there is no distinction of color. All are one in the color and beauty of servitude to him. Color is not important. The heart is all important. It matters not what the exterior may be, if the heart be pure and white within. God does not behold differences of hue and complexion. He looks at the hearts. He whose morals and virtues are praiseworthy is preferred in the presence of God. He who is devoted to the kingdom is most beloved. In the realm of Genesis and creation, the question of color is of least importance. Abdu'l-Baha.
Give me a second. My screen is kind of blocked. Let me minimize here. All right, here we go. Do not repay evil with evil or insult with insult. On the contrary, repay evil with blessing, because to this you were called so that you may inherit a blessing. For whoever would love life and see good days must keep their tongue from evil and their lips from deceitful speech. They must turn from evil and do good. They must seek peace and pursue it. 1 Peter 3:9-11.
Talking to the world about oneness. Oh, what a wonder this oneness. Surely it's the day of God.
Beauty.
All right. Well, that concludes the prepared portion of our prayers. So I wanted to just open it up if anyone else felt so moved and wanted to say a prayer. Please go ahead.
O thou kind Lord, we are servants of thy threshold, taking shelter at thy holy door. We seek no refuge save only this strong pillar. Turn nowhere for a haven but into thy safekeeping. Protect us, bless us, support us, make us such that we shall love but thy good pleasure, utter only thy praise, follow only the pathway of truth, that we may become rich enough to dispense with all save thee and receive our gifts from the sea of thy beneficence, that we may ever strive to exalt thy cause and to spread thy sweet savors far and wide, that we may become oblivious of self and occupied only with thee and disown all else and be caught up in thee. O thou provider, O thou forgiver, grant us thy grace and loving kindness, thy gifts and thy bestowals, and sustain us, that we may attain our goal. Thou art the powerful, the able, the knower, the seer. And verily thou art the generous, and verily thou art the all-merciful, and verily thou art the ever-forgiving. He to whom repentance is due, he who forgiveth even the most grievous of sins.
I'd like to say a prayer for the progress of the soul of Dr. King and others who have dedicated their lives to the equality of mankind. Grant, O my Lord, that they who have ascended unto thee may repair unto him who is the most exalted companion, and abide beneath the shadow of the tabernacle of thy majesty and the sanctuary of thy glory. Sprinkle, O my Lord, upon them from the ocean of thy forgiveness what will make them worthy to abide, so long as thine own sovereignty endureth within thy most exalted kingdom and thine all highest dominion. Potent art thou to do what pleaseth thee.
O thou compassionate Lord, thou who art generous and able, we are servants of thine, sheltered beneath thy providence. Cast thy glance of favor upon us. Give light to our eyes, hearing to our ears, and understanding and love to our hearts. Render our souls joyous and happy through thy glad tidings. O Lord, point out to us the pathway of thy kingdom and resuscitate all of us through the breaths of the Holy Spirit. Bestow upon us life everlasting and confer upon us never-ending honor. Unify mankind and illumine the world of humanity. May we all follow thy pathway, long for thy good pleasure, and seek the mysteries of thy kingdom. O God, unite us and connect our hearts with thy indissoluble bond. Verily, thou art the giver, thou art the kind one, and thou art the Almighty.
O thou forgiving Lord, thou art the shelter for all these thy servants. Thou knowest the secrets and art aware of all things. We are all helpless, and thou art the mighty and omnipotent. We are all sinners, and thou art the forgiver of sins, the merciful, the compassionate. O Lord, look not our shortcomings. Deal with us according to thy grace and bounty. Our shortcomings are many, but the ocean of thy forgiveness is boundless. Our weakness is grievous, but the evidences of thine aid and assistance are clear. Therefore, confirm and strengthen us. Enable us to do that which is worthy of thy holy threshold. Illumine our hearts. Grant us discerning eyes and attentive ears. Resuscitate the dead and heal the sick. Bestow wealth upon the poor and give peace and security to the fearful. Accept us in thy kingdom and illumine us with the light of thy guidance. Thou art the powerful and the omnipotent. Thou art the gracious. Thou art the clement. Thou art the kind. Abdul Baha.
Oh mi Dios, une los corazones de tus siervos y revélales tu gran propósito, para que sigan tus mandamientos y se atengan a tu ley. Ayúdales, oh Dios, en sus esfuerzos y confiéreles fuerza para servirte. Oh Dios, no los abandones a sí mismos, sino guía sus pasos con la luz de tu conocimiento y alegra sus corazones con tu amor. Verdaderamente, tú eres su auxiliador y su Señor.
Thank you so much, everyone. So that's the devotional portion. I wanted to look at a article talking about Dr. Martin Luther King. It's on Baha'i Teachings. I will put the link in chat here for everyone, and then I'm going to share my screen. I was going to ask Jay to read first part of it. Let me share my screen. I'll put the link in the YouTube chat for our YouTube viewers as well. All right. So this speech was a speech given 1 year before Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. And it was a remarkable speech for a number of reasons. Jay, if you could start with, so this is exactly 1 year before his assassination. So Jay, if you could start with on that day.
On that day, Dr. King announced that he opposed the war in Vietnam. He called upon America and the world to undergo a true revolution in values. He said, "A true revolution of values will soon cause us to question the fairness and justice of many of our past and present policies. A true revolution of values will soon look uneasily on the glaring contrast of poverty and wealth. A true revolution of values will lay hand on the world order and say of war, this way of settling differences is not just." But then, in the most surprising and stunning section of his speech that day, Dr. King made statements he had never made before. He brought his great oratorical and persuasive skills powerfully to bear on his true topic, calling for a worldwide fellowship. A genuine revolution of values means in the final analysis that our loyalties must become ecumenical rather than sectional. Every nation must now develop an overriding loyalty to mankind as a whole in order to preserve the best in their individual societies. This call for a worldwide fellowship that lifts neighborly concern
I think we might be losing
this
Jay.
concept.
Still there, Jay?
When I speak of love, I am not speak. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay,
sorry. Keep going.
When I speak of love, is that a good place to start?
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry. When I speak of love, I am not speaking of some sentimental and weak response. I am speaking of that force which all of the great religions have seen as the supreme unifying principle of life. Love is somehow the key that unlocks the door which leads to ultimate reality. This Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Buddhist belief about ultimate reality is beautifully summed up in the first epistle of St. John. Let us love one another, for God is love, and everyone that loveth is born of God and knoweth God. He that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love. If we love one another, God dwelleth in us, and his love is perfected in us. And if we will only make the right choice, we will be able to transform this pending cosmic elegy into a creative psalm of peace. If we will make the right choice, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our world into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. If we will but make the right choice, we will be able to speed up the day all over America and all over the world, when justice will roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream.
All right. Don Kraboski, would you like to finish this? Although
his fellow workers in the movement had pleaded with Dr. King not to deliver an anti-war speech, fearing it would delude and jeopardize their civil rights efforts, he felt morally and spiritually obliged to advocate for peace, and he ignored the advice to stay quiet. His moving speech reverberated throughout the world. It galvanized millions of people of goodwill to work for peace and justice. It gave new hope for peace to warring armies and nations, and helped bring about an eventual end to an unjust war. Strikingly, King's Riverside Church echoed and repeated the exact same themes of a very similar address given by Abdu'l-Baha in New York City more than half a century before. Do you want me to keep reading? The oneness of the kingdom of humanity will supplant the banner of conquest, and all communities of the earth will gather under its protection. No nation with separate and restricted boundaries, such as Persia, for instance, will exist. The United States of America will be known only as a name. Germany, France, England, Turkey, Arabia, all these various nations will be welded together in unity. When the people of the future are asked, to which nationality do you belong? The answer will be to the nationality of humanity. The people of the future will not say, I belong to the nation of England, France, or Persia, for all of them will be citizens of a universal reality, nationality, the one family, the one country, the one world of humanity. And then these wars, hatreds, and strifes will pass away. The body of the human world is sick. Its remedy and healing will be the oneness of the kingdom of humanity. Its life is the most great peace. Its illumination and quickening is love. Its happiness is the attainment of spiritual perfections. The divine Jerusalem has come down from heaven. The bride of Zion has appeared. The voice of the kingdom of God has been raised. So while you remember the life, the work, and sacrifice of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. today, remember too the clarion call for the unity of humanity and a sustainable global peace from the Baha'i teachings.
wonderful. Thank you so much. I was very glad when Jay showed up, because two topics that Jay and I have talked about extensively in the past have been the Vietnam War and Martin Luther King. So when I found the article and stuff, I don't know if Jay, were you familiar with that speech before, the 1967 one? I'm sure you are. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really interesting when you read historians talk about, the times where Martin Luther King had challenged society the most. A lot of people will cite this speech as one of the ones that was the most challenging for people. This message of peace, for whatever reason, whether it's Baha'u'llah who teach about peace, Jesus teaches about peace. This message of peace is very challenging to societies. With that, I wanted to spend a few minutes and open it up for any thoughts or reflections of what they heard today or what they've been thinking regarding this topic.
Think I'm so happy that we're having this space. There's so many spaces right now, today, all day, tonight. I know even right now there are various spaces where people are coming together to discuss equity, race unity, and trying to create one community. It feels so different this year. You know, people are not out doing the MLK march, which is usually done over the weekend or today, but we're finding ourselves on online platforms like this one, trying to connect and pray and really reflect. It's been so much information. I don't think I'm still processing. There's so much that, especially in light of COVID and what's been happening, the challenges and transitions that we're going through as a country right now. How does this topic fit into that? It's really interesting. I'm very happy we're here. I don't know if I have any insights. I just have a question about this revolution of values. What is that revolution of values, and how do we acknowledge it? How do we participate in it? How do we promote it? As Baha'is, love is such an important concept, building towards the one world. It's very aligned with the teachings of Dr. King and his sacrifice and his work all these years. I'm just curious what a genuine revolution of values.
The House of Justice calls on us individually and collectively to make a mark on history. And I've always wondered what that means, to make a mark on history. How the heck am I doing this? But then you think about Dr. King and you realize that he was assassinated when he was 39, a whole lot younger than I am right now. And you think about, what have I done? What have we done as a Baha'i community? And I think if we as a community are to make a mark on history, this is a topic, this is a theme around which our community should, can, and probably must become the rallying point for the greater Austin area, where everybody could say, you want to talk about race unity, bringing people together, elevating everybody's vision. Let's go talk to the Baha'is. They really know how. We're not there. We're not there. But I feel like if we as a Baha'i community are to impact anybody, this is our topic. This is our thing. This is something that we should really be in the forefront of this race unity issue.
I think one way that we can do that in terms of being in the forefront is looking for every opportunity to contribute positively to the discussion on race, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. There are of course many different forums out there in the public, but that's a place where hopefully we've already got people who respect us and are already willing to hear what we have to contribute. And in doing so, we can make it plain that we're coming from this Baha'i perspective of the oneness of humanity. So that's one way we can make our mark.
Chris, can I add something else? I just discovered that his first name was Michael King, and he changed it to Martin Luther King. It's Michael King, that he changed it because he so admired Martin Luther. I've been reading it, but I didn't know that until this morning. Sorry, guys.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Was he not named after his father though, because of the junior?
No, basically he was named after maybe his father was named Michael. I don't know, but he was named Michael Luther King, and he changed it to Martin Luther King.
Interesting. I think
Wikipedia, guys, it has good information.
I think that the Baha'i community is viewed as one of the communities that is in the forefront of race unity work. I think we just need to adjust to that expectation because it is so central to our teachings, the oneness of humanity. And we do believe that the most challenging issue facing the American community is racism. And there are many teachings around it. I think what I'm hearing is how do we then enter into the discussion? How do we make a contribution? What do we need to do? And so our communities, we have this responsibility of love, connection, contribution, and stewardship. How do we steward this process? How do we bring about and introduce the concept of consultation, for example, or collaboration, or deeply diverse community building? How do we introduce and maintain, elaborate, teach, whatever the right verbs are, this whole concept that we have a tool called consultation that is one of the best tools that can be utilized when you have true diversity, that you have many people come together from very different backgrounds, oftentimes contentious, and there's sparks of conflict going on. And then you can actually get to the truth. So it's really cool that we do have this at our disposal. It's how do we suffuse every space that we're in with the teachings and spirit of the faith, not our opinion or our experience, but just bring the faith in so that it can have the effect and influence it needs to.
One of the things I'd be interested in is Martin Luther King spoke a lot about forgiveness, and it seems like that is a trait that is not really kind of lauded in our society right now. We have a lot of fighting and stuff, but this concept of forgiveness. So I just wanted to explore that just a little bit and wonder if anybody had any examples of some forgiveness that meant something to them or experienced it in some way.
Forgiveness in terms of this particular issue, race equity?
Yeah, absolutely. I will. Yeah, I was gonna say that there was one story that I heard recently, or somebody who was talking about the importance of, and this is, he had participated in a lot of the early civil rights movement. He had lived in South Carolina in the 50s and 60s, and he was talking about how even the cops who murdered George Floyd, I mean, this is a black man who grew up in segregation, talked about how he was trying to find love and forgiveness for the cops who killed George Floyd, right? And that was what he was doing. He was trying to love them and forgive them. And I thought that was very powerful. I mean, that's somebody who definitely had every reason in the world to harbor hatred and ill will towards people, but yet, he had gotten to a place where how do I love and forgive my oppressors? I mean, that was what he basically said, which I thought was just amazing. I can't imagine going through what he went through and finding that kind of love and forgiveness. So I was wondering if anybody else had any experiences or heard stories like that.
There's an interesting book I'm putting in chat. It's called Rising Out of Hatred, The Awakening of a Former White Nationalist. It's about the story of a young man who was raised his godfather was David Dukes. So he was in that Louisiana sort of racist, white supremacist group. He's a young man, and how it wasn't until he went to college and he was challenged on his views that he began to actually examine them and then change, and then the whole process of forgiveness. And one of the seminal things that happened to him in his college in Florida, I believe he was living in Florida, was that they decided that no one was going to look at him and everyone is going to treat him as if he doesn't exist, because it came out that he's actually a white supremacist. And a Jewish friend of his started inviting him to Shabbat services on Friday nights, because he said, if I was raised in that philosophy, I would have probably become very similar. So they developed this friendship of the heart, which helped him transform. And so basically his Jewish friend stepped over the line. Instead of pulling him across, he stepped over, embraced him, and through love and forgiveness brought him across to a different understanding. It's an incredibly powerful story that's made, it's on social media right now, but in terms of forgiveness, and he was saying that one of the tactics that the white supremacists use is that they make sure that there are no other whites in the group who challenge them, because being challenged by the minorities is very different. It actually helps them in the recruitment. But if a white person stands up for the rights of minorities and starts questioning and pushing back, they said that it breaks down their process, which is interesting, because in terms of allyship of white individuals, the dominant culture to stand up for the rights of the minorities and push back and question.
I wanted to say that along with forgiveness, of course, is the importance of justice and creating unity. And a lot of times the individual's personal forgiveness, we call upon that a lot in terms of the idea of bringing healing. But the ultimate healing comes through justice. And I think that in terms of what everyone can do, as someone else mentioned, is ask for justice, wherever we're at, justice in the workplace, and educate toward justice. And that's all I wanted to say, because we often talk about the forgiveness, but there also needs to be justice as well. And I think the fact that so many people, so many diverse people have come out and said, we want justice, has really changed the dialogue and given it momentum. And it's something that, we need to keep maintaining.
Yes.
Yeah, that kind of makes me think of the current discourse around, problems that are happening in the country. And, the analogy is made that, if there is, a wound, it has to be cleaned. It has to be, sometimes it needs to be excised, there's a part that doesn't, it's if it's infected and there's gangrene, sometimes, you have to remove parts of it in order to save the rest. And so, and yes, cauterize and then start the healing process. So, I guess the institutions are there for administering justice, and that's as individuals we do the forgiving. But yes, absolutely right, Gabrielle. We have to be calling for justice, calling for the institutions to do their part, and then we have to do our part as far as the heart goes. And, the other that kind of struck me. This, the goings on here in our country the past 2 weeks is, and just the division has struck me in when we were reading the quote, where we're being given this vision of the world being one country, and then that doesn't just make us united. Here we are, a country that's been around for 245 years, and there's still a lot of hatred for seemingly really ridiculous things. Have you tried to explain the Cold War to a kid? The world was coming to an end, close to coming to an end. Could have been, the human population could have been killed, 40, 70 times over? I lost count what it was in the 80s. And it was because of disagreements about how to run their economies? That when you put it in perspective, it is, it wasn't a battle for resources. It wasn't like we're going to die because we don't have this, to feed our people or anything like that.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because in that speech that I mentioned, I'll put the entire text of the speech. You can find it on YouTube as well. Dr. Martin Luther King mentions this very thing. I'll share it. It's fascinating.
Okay.
But he says right here, could it be that they did not know that the good news, so the news of Jesus, was meant for all men, for communists and capitalists, for their children and ours, for black and white, for revolutionary and conservative? Have they forgotten that my ministry is in obedience to the one who loved his enemies so fully that he died for them? What then can I say to the Viet Cong or to Castro or to Mao as a faithful minister of this one? Can I threaten them with death, or must I not share with them my life? And so, if you see the whole speech, it's amazing, because he's talking about, and it's something that, as Baha'is, we have to grapple with too, is talking about how we're here to bring everyone together, right? Whether it be the protesters, for, a couple of weeks ago at the Capitol, the protesters in Minneapolis over the summer, every human being there, we're asking to come with us and work together for the unity of mankind. What an amazing challenge that is. But there's no exceptions, right? We're here to work with everyone, and call them to this. And we have to believe that everyone has the potential to, be this positive change, as challenging as it is sometimes, because it is so easy to just, kind of get down in our teams and our sides and be like, those other guys are terrible. I don't want anything to do with them. The challenge is so great. It's daunting sometimes. And I appreciate the idea of how do you explain the Cold War? Because sometimes I'll be studying wars and stuff, and I'll just pause for a minute. I'm like, wow, this is just stupid. Like, people died for this? It's just dumb. Sometimes it's just, yeah, it's amazing.
Chris, if I could add something. Baha'u'llah between 1867 and 1869 sent out a whole series of letters to the kings and the rulers. And while each letter is slightly different and addresses certain things, but there is also a common theme in all those letters. And the common theme is stop wasting your money on war, stop wasting your money on guns and weapons, and you are given this position by God so you can serve mankind and serve your people. And when you think about the fact that and I'm not going to get political here, but we do spend $720 billion a year on the Department of Defense. We can't get the people in Detroit clean running water. I think a small portion of the 720 billion would go a long way in fixing the issues and the challenges our countries and our communities face. Why? Oh, and we talk about America only because we live in America. Everybody else is doing the same thing. All the other countries are doing the same thing.
Yeah. I was struck by the quote that Jay put up, that justice is what love looks like in public. It seems to me that that love is what we try to express, but love is also the thing that saves us from ourselves. Not that we love ourselves, but that we cultivate that, and we try to love our neighbor. We try to love our enemies. That doesn't make our enemies love us, nor our neighbor love us, but it preserves us. I think it makes our voice truer when we do try, as Gabriel said, to work for justice. And I think Stephen had said that we need to work where we are at to influence our workplaces. We know what justice, we know that we cannot administer justice on our own. Institutions do that. But we have to have love and save ourselves from being unable to deliver that influence that we have, that more than a wish for unity, but that message of Baha'u'llah for unity. It's pretty tough to do that when we're all torqued up about the events of present times or even the events of the past. We're pretty busy worrying about the future and remembering the worst of the past sometimes. But the two things, love and justice, are directly connected. I don't think it's an easy task, but we can't play at the appearance of love and then think that by saying the right things, justice will ensue. But we can leverage the places we're in. As Khotan said, I love the way she put it, to diffuse the places we are, to diffuse them with love. That's a great way to look at it. We have to love, but we have to work for justice.
Exactly that sentiment. I agree so much. And in the recent letter, this July 22nd of last year, from the Universal House of Justice of the Baha'is, it speaks to that. And I love that it says, ultimately, the power to transform the world is affected by love, right? Divine love, the Word of God. But then it also gives us, speaking to that, okay, so what do I do right? We know that. It says through, it's disseminated. This love is disseminated by enkindled souls through intimate conversations that create new susceptibilities in human hearts, open minds to moral persuasion, and loosen the hold of biased norms and social systems so they can gradually take on a new form. Also above, it talks about we need to maintain a humble posture of learning and weigh alternatives in the light of these divine teachings, and try to consult and harmonize differing views and shape collective action. And of course, what that looks like, absolutely, it looks different, but we have an opportunity every day to do this, but our little spheres are different. So I think when I think of this, I think of, okay, today or tomorrow morning, sort of reflecting on that and trying to be prepared as best as I can for those conversations. So, yeah.
Yeah, so one of the things I did share the link to the devotions I put together tonight for anyone who would like to share it or use it for their own personal devotions with their friends and family. So, yeah, I didn't want to keep everyone too long. I want people to have time to reflect and maybe come up with one of the things I was hoping is that after this, people will maybe share these devotions with other people. I'll email them out as well and spread that love just a little bit. Even just a little bit makes a big difference right now in our society. It is way too easy to find hate right now, but finding love is wonderful. Are there any other last comments of anyone who didn't speak? They want to say something?
Hello, everyone. I'd like to offer
Mike.
something. Hey. So yeah, piggyback on what Pat was saying. In my opinion, I think that love and justice component can and should be and probably is. It's like everything else. I think it begins with you, right? It begins with me, right? So I do love myself, right? And I can also apply justice to myself by my thoughts, my behavior, right? And by loving myself, applying justice within myself, to myself, then I'm better able to, well, then I'll walk in that manner. I'll act in that manner. I'll think in that manner. I'll share in that manner. I'll be more willing and able possibly to listen to others, right? And listen to where they are relative to, let's say, those two things, okay? And from there, and I'm gonna, pretty much everybody knows I'm a musician. From there, we can begin to compose something together, right? Co-create something. Just if nothing else, like once again, the meeting of hearts,
Yes.
and keep our egos in check. I've learned a lot, and I continue to learn a lot by playing music, particularly in jazz music, but any music in particular, right? And I should say every music, because you must listen first and then respond, right? You have to know or be able to listen to not only what you're hearing with yourself, but also what is this other person or these other people, where are they, and I can tell you, I've done bandstands with people who, we probably would disagree on some things, or maybe a lot of things, or, sometimes people bring the ego to the bandstand or whatever. But then as a servant, a servant heart, a loving heart, you let me make an I statement. I've learned how to put mine to the side to serve the greater good, So I think once again, that's in music, but I think that applies in any and all arenas and areas and spheres of influence, family, work, community, anything, where we can, like I said, we can just harness, hook into the divine love, nurture it within us, fortify it within us, the divine justice, fortify it, nurture it, hook into it within us, and then move from there. That's all I wanted to say. Okay, I'm sorry. One last thing I have to say this too. This morning I was watching The View, right? And Representative Cori Bush came on. She's I think a first-time representative from Missouri. And so she was talking, she had the floor, and you could feel her vitality, her energy, her commitment, her understanding of, her place in history. She knew her personal journey, her personal story. She shared some of that. And I think Meghan McCain had asked the question that she, asking her about how to remain hopeful, or how does she feel hopeful. And Representative Cori Bush, she said many things, but one of the things that she said that just stuck with me, just stood out, and especially the way she said it. She said, "I am an instrument of light. Of peace, excuse me. I am an instrument of peace." Let's get it right. I am an instrument of peace, right? She said that of herself. And she also said it in such a way to suggest and or invite each and everybody that heard her voice to take that as well and say that about themselves. I am an instrument of peace.
Yes.
That was the highlight of my day. I had a really good day.
Love the way you said that. Thank you, Michael. I have to mention something that I saw on the news briefly. A young lady who will be saying a poem at the inauguration. Her name is Amanda Gorman. You need to look up Amanda Gorman, Google her name up, and read her poetry and listen to it. We will all have an opportunity to hear her on the inauguration. And she's a very young lady. She is the junior poet laureate of the United States. She is a young Black woman, and the power in her is stunning, just amazing. I was moved. I stood up and clapped at the TV set. Okay, there's one of those young voices of light and of yeah. Thank you, Michael.
Pat, all I had to do was type in Amanda in the Google search, and it's not an uncommon name, but hers was the first hit, so she's being looked up a lot.
I think this evening many people saw her on Judy Woodruff's program on NPR. I was simply blown away and so happy that there are these voices that are out there. There's a tapping in. And we often say this about someone who moves us, about an artist. We say, well, they're tapping into the divine. They're being moved by the great spirit that's unleashed in the world. It's one thing to say it, it's quite another thing to actually see it happen. And so I'm very much looking forward to her voice being one of those voices that we will hear now for a very long time. And thank you, Michael, for you should be bringing your bass, your upright bass to these meetings and providing the template for this kind of talk. Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. This has been wonderful. It has been wonderful to see everyone. Hopefully we'll do some more of this sort of stuff in the future. I have asked a couple people to come talk about race unity for different events. So we'll see. Keep your eye out in your email and stuff to see who might be coming to our community to kind of help bring this conversation along further. So I'm going to stop the YouTube stream. There we go.